Hello and welcome to Conversations with the Voice of Reason. I am your host, Benjamin Boyce, and today's conversant is returning guest Veera. We spoke last year, probably I think last August or something like that. She is a detransitioning female of Finnish origin and actual situation. I guess she still lives there. We talk about the ever ongoing process of detransition. We also talk about art and spirituality and other aspects of her life. She's a wonderful, wonderful dame, and it's great to catch up with her yet again. And I know you're going to enjoy this conversation if you indeed do love conversations. So without further ado, here is Veera.
Yeah.
How are you?
How are you?
I'm good. It's great to see you again.
Yeah, it's been more than a year now.
I think a bit more than a year, right about.
Yeah. What does your shirt say?
Pink Floyd.
Ah, okay.
It's a rock band.
Yeah, I know.
Are you big into music?
Kind of, not really. I started to wear headphones this year, so it's been a new thing in my life that I'm listening to music.
Why did you start wearing earphones? Just to block out the world?
To listen to music.
Okay.
I didn't wear headphones before because I had issues because I was scared that, I don't know, I'm too distracted by the music to pay attention to my surroundings or something. Yeah. So I was afraid what's going to happen. And then, so it's been a huge thing in my life.
And you haven't been run over yet, right?
No, I've been hit by a car, but that was before. I wasn't wearing headphones then. That was a different case.
Okay. That sounds like a story.
I was just walking home and crossing a street, and then a taxi driver hit me with a car. We had to go to court and everything because he was a professional driver in the middle of the city, so it shouldn't have happened. I got 19 euros out of that.
19 euros.
Yeah.
Which is about $18.73 right now.
Yes, exactly.
Did you get hurt permanently?
No, not really. A little bit, but not permanently.
So, and that 19 euros was enough to get you a taxi ride home from court, right? Just about, if that.
Maybe. I bought lunch with that. It's always a meme online that my financial situation is so bad I'm gonna jump in front of a car to get insurance money or something. It's a meme. And then I was like, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. Don't do it. 19 euros. So, yeah.
Before we go on, do you have headphones close by? You could just pop them in? Yeah.
Yes.
Stick them on
I
in.
need to...
it's better auto, usually.
So we just have to manage with this audio this way.
It's fine. I can't interrupt you, which is good practice for me because I'm terrible at interrupting people. All I do all day long is have these interviews where I just interrupt people constantly. So.
Okay, well, I mean, I was meaning to look at the conversation we had 1 year ago just to remember what we talked about. And then I just couldn't listen to myself. And I was like, no, just shut up, me. And then I was looking at the comments, and then people had commented that Benjamin has the listening skills of a saint. And then I was like, yep. Just me going on and on about something.
To be honest, and I probably shouldn't say this because it's more direct than I like to be. I like to be very indirect, but that interview is one of the most beautiful interviews that I've ever been a part of. So I just really appreciate you bringing your soul into my life and onto my little corner of the internet, because it was just so important and powerful. So sorry to be
I saw you say in a video after that, like in another video, but after our chat, that you cried, and then I was like, oh no. But I mean,
It's okay.
people are allowed to cry. It's okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be fine with that.
It makes for good content, right?
What?
Laughter and tears, that's the best kind of content, right? People laughing or people crying, I guess. Well, it depends, I guess, what they're crying about, but
Yeah, that's keeps the algorithm happy to be emotional.
So I wanted to have you back on to do some catch up and then just to pal around with you or just to chum along. But so where were you a year ago when we last spoke, and what's been going on since then?
Do you mean like literally where I was?
Well, I mean, like, what were you working on and what was your state? You know?
Yeah, so a year ago, I was still living in Helsinki, that's the capital of Finland, and I had just got my like legal documentation done that I was back to being legally female, and I had my new name, and I was detransitioning, and I was preparing to start my exchange studies in the Netherlands. And then I spent 6 months about in the Netherlands, and I lived there, and I studied there, and that was a bit chaotic. And then I came back to Finland, and then I continued detransitioning, and then I moved out from the capital, and I did my internship at this very tiny small town, and then I bought an apartment and I moved here. And this is a small town with less than 10,000 people living here. So I moved from the capital to here. So
Is
it's
it
been a...
is it further north than the capital? Are you pretty close to the pole?
Yeah, it's... well, the capital is quite as south as it gets. So everything is further north. But yeah, it is. It's more in the middle of the country, kind of. But it's more to what my childhood was like. So it's closer to where I'm from originally. So, but it's been a big change and a lot of changes throughout the year, because I was just thinking that previously to this, like how much my life has changed and how many times within the past year because of the whole exchange studies and all that. And now I just started my last year of studies, and now I am almost done with detransitioning, but then at the same time, I'm kind of trying to accept the fact that it's never going to be fully done. Like I was always waiting for the moment when I can say like, my detransition is over, it's done, I'm done with it. And then I had to realize like it's not ever going to be over in that sense, because I got rid of my internal organs and I'm not producing hormones. So I have to deal with the medications and the checkups and the hormone levels and all of that. And that's not going to end. So I had to kind of deal with that. And yeah, I think 1 year ago, I was kind of like approaching the end of my detransition. And in that sense, I'm still in that, like trying to be done with it and also trying to be fine with the fact that it will never be like done.
So what do you mean approaching the end of it? So I can probably imagine that there's the internal, like the psychological detransition, and then the physical detransition. But the physical detransition, it's like, I guess you can reverse some of the things that were done, that occurred to your body during transition. Voice, chest, and then your hormones or your female reproductive organs. So you have to, I guess you kind of have to just manage the state of your body now. And you consider that as just ongoing detransition.
Yeah, well, because there was the legal side of things, because I was legally male, and then I needed to do all the everything to be legally recognized as female again, and all of that, and the name change and everything. So there was the legal aspect, and then there was the psychological aspect and the social aspect and the physical with the hormones and all of that. And I still grow facial hair, and I didn't have any more like laser treatment for my face because it was so awful to because I had to wear the safety goggles things and then just lay on the table and they would just zap me with the laser to my face. And like with some like I have PTSD, so it's not an ideal situation to be like blindfolded on a table and someone is just zapping you with the laser to your face. And then I also had to have a fat transfer to my chest because of the top surgery, and there's this dip in my chest and it's uneven and it's uncomfortable. So there is like multiple medical steps, and it hasn't been as easy as I thought, because initially I thought at the beginning of spring 2020 that by the summer of 2020 I'll be done. I'm just gonna quit testosterone and I'm gonna go on estrogen and that's gonna be it. And now it's like 2.5 years later and I'm finally accepting the fact that it will not be over because, well, first of all, now I'm still in the position and the place that I have to actively try to manage my hormone levels because the estrogen is too low. So now I'm on a higher dosage of estrogen, and if that doesn't work, then I will have to try the gel or the patches or whatever way to get estrogen to my body. And so
why do you need estrogen? Can you just walk us through the biology of this? Like, is it because you get depressed or you can't, you don't have energy, or what is necessary about estrogen for the functioning of your person?
Well, because my body doesn't produce any hormones naturally anymore because of the surgeries. So, well, yeah, for mood and energy levels, but also for cardiovascular health and the risk of osteoporosis, I think. And yeah, it's like bone density and heart health and all of these things. And I think that's the biggest thing about trans healthcare and transitioning, detransitioning, and all of these things, that hormones are approached as these like aesthetic choices, when in reality they are nothing but aesthetic in that sense that they have important functions in the body.
Yeah. Our bodies are built around them in yeah. all the different levels, not just the sex part.
Yeah. So that's why. And now I also have high cholesterol, and that's a risk, like inherited risk in my family. So I have to lower my cholesterol levels and get my estrogen levels up and try not to get a heart attack. Because that's the risky situation at the moment. So if I can't get my cholesterol down, I will have to start medication for that. And yeah, there's so many factors because of this.
And then there's probably consequences to the cholesterol lowering medications, right? So it's just a cascade of...
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So that's why I had to like give up the hope that this will be over.
Do you mind, and you can totally say no, just talking a little bit more about your chest area, like what needs to happen? And this is for information purposes for anybody who's considering a mastectomy or who's trying to deal with the consequences of mastectomy, but you don't have to talk about
it. So I'm not going to get fake boobs or like a boob job or something, because personally I don't care and I don't need it, because yeah, I don't care. And it doesn't affect my life that I don't have boobs in that sense, because even before like medically transitioning, like hormone-wise, because I had top surgery very first thing in my transition. Then I realized quickly that people still assume that I have boobs, even when I didn't have boobs. And then I was like, oh, so people, when they see that I'm female, they just assume that the boobs are there somewhere, even though there's nothing, but there is something somewhere. And then I was like, oh, okay, so it works both ways. Like now that I've detransitioned, it's very clear, well, depending on what type of clothing I'm wearing, but I don't hide the fact that I don't have boobs and I have very flat chest and I'm not skinny or fit enough that it would make sense that I don't have boobs. But still, nobody says anything, nobody pays attention to it because people see me as female, so they assume the boobs must be there somewhere. So it's not like a thing in my life. So like I don't care. So that's why I'm not gonna do anything about it. But the reason why I needed to get the fat transfer, it's because of the complications of the top surgery. So my chest is uneven and asymmetrical, and it's not just a cosmetic thing. And I wouldn't care if it was just a cosmetic thing, but because there is this kind of like a dip, that's the only way I can describe it. Like it just goes in and it's so uncomfortable that I'm always like lifting my shoulders or I'm like in an asymmetrical position because the skin kind of folds on itself. So then it's so uncomfortable that I'm like always like uncomfortable and trying to fix it somehow, but there's no fixing it. So that's why they did the fat transfer from my stomach to my chest to try to fill it up so that the uncomfortable feeling would go away. And they told me when they did the procedure that it might not work. The fat might migrate or not stay there or something. So then it's like just try again, maybe just continue doing it. But then the procedure was awful and I just don't want to do anything to my body anymore. And it was so uncomfortable and it was so just awful. And I don't want to deal with the surgeon because he's a unique individual. So.
Oh, no. So by uncomfortable, so you had pain in your stomach where the fat was taken and then the pain in your chest where it was deposited? Or the actual healing from that?
Yeah, and I have still the like where the stitches were on my chest. I can still see the it's not like scarring, but it's still red. I don't know what's going on with that, but I guess it's fine. I don't know. So yeah, and it's just because it didn't even work. So I'm still stuck with the original problem.
And in your country, was that covered by the National Healthcare Service? Or did you have
no, because I did my top surgery at this private clinic to begin with, because I got my top surgery done first at the private hospital, and that's why I'm dealing with this surgeon who is very strange. But yeah, so I did that because I found out at a trans meeting and a group that it's possible without any sort of referral or diagnosis or anything. You can just go there and just give them money and they will operate on you. So I found that and then I did that. And yeah, so that's why I was dealing with that. So that's why they don't fix it at the public healthcare, because I tried to go that route because I didn't want to go back to the private hospital and meet the surgeon and so on and so on.
Is it the same surgeon who did your mastectomy that did the reconstructive or the fat migration?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I went there, when I was forced because the public health care wouldn't fix it because it was not done there, so I had to go back there, and I had been avoiding this situation for since I got the top surgery done. So it was like more than 5 years, I think. And yeah, then I said that full regrets about the whole transition, did not fix anything. It was completely pointless and just I don't agree with any of it anymore. And the surgeon, well, he said that I was the first one to go back and to say that. And I was like, yeah, why would anyone come back here? And yeah, and then we had some very strange conversations when Yeah, it was about like I tried to talk about kind of like, because he was asking about the process of transitioning and detransitioning and why I did any of it, and I tried to tell him about it and answer his questions, and then he told me to volunteer to yeah. So this was last spring. So yeah, so he told me that if I don't know what to do with my life, then I should volunteer to fight at the war in Ukraine. And yeah, and to solve my crisis of meaning or whatever by that. And yeah, this is exactly why I never wanted to go back to that private hospital, because yeah, I knew that the surgeon is a very strange individual.
Yeah.
So
Strange isn't the word I would use, but that's probably approaching as polite as you can get.
yeah, yeah. And in the same meeting, he asked me what I do, and I said I study at art academy and I'm majoring in photography. So then he started to show me his photography portfolio and his like photography art and ask feedback. And I was like, first you tell me to die in a foreign war, and now I have to critique your photography, and like, what is this? Like, can you just fix my chest that you performed this unnecessary surgery on, and can we just move on and just not do any of this? But yeah, very strange. And yeah, now I'm not going back because it didn't even work, and I don't have any faith that it would work from now on either. So
Just for sake of story, what was his pictures of?
uh black and white pictures of the sea, I think, and some rocks by the sea. I didn't have the heart to tell him that it's not very unique or interesting in like an artistic sense. I don't know. I'm scared of him, so
Yeah.
yeah. But it was like, I don't know. In his words, it was like his expression of his darkness or something.
Yeah, I'll say. It sounds like this guy's got some darkness.
Yeah.
Yeah, one wonders the spiritual toll on the surgeons who modify bodies and how that affects them.
Yeah. He's like performing top surgeries. I think it's his main business. That's what he does on a weekly basis. And then yeah, I was just saying that it doesn't fix anything. Like, if people have issues, then cutting body parts off, it's not the solution. And then I told him that, well, that just means more money to you because you can perform top surgeries and then you can give them boob jobs when they regret it. So that's the double money for you. And then he said that, oh, that's not why I do this. But then he didn't give me any reason why he does what he does. So I don't know.
What a strange fellow.
Yeah. Yeah. And also he doesn't necessarily agree with gender identity ideology or the understanding of gender identity. He doesn't understand of it, and he doesn't care to understand. He just like operates on people. That's a service that he provides.
So how was school then? So you're done with school?
No, I have my last year of studies.
Okay.
I just started. Yeah, my school is 4 years, and I already studied photography in like a technical school or like a vocational school for 2 years before this school. I don't know how long one can study photography. I think it's been plenty. But now I just have to work on my thesis and my graduation work.
And what's your thesis going to be on?
Artist entrepreneurs.
Okay.
My working title before this was, okay, I'm just gonna say this in Finnish. Identiteettitaide, taiteilija identiteetti ja itetaide. So that means identity arts, artist identity, and folk art or outsider art. Because I kind of wanted to find my where do I fit in within arts. But then I figured I would probably be entrepreneur, artist, and start my own gallery or some sort of space. So I'm going to focus on that, and I'm going to find some people to interview and research interesting people who do something interesting. And I also started a driving school because I need to get my driving license, because I was planning on doing a road movie about this journey to find myself in arts. I wanted to make it like that in both the medium and the message is correlating in this very obvious way, but also mixing vlog material to artsy footage. So yeah, I've been at driving school trying to get my driving license. But it's been a long process.
Well, are you adapting to the vehicle, or is it difficult for you to get your head around?
Yeah, it's been a challenge because I've been, for the majority of my life, I've been very theoretical, living in my head type of person.
Yeah.
And then I have to be aware of my flesh prison and do things with both of my hands and feet, and also pay attention to the car and the environment. And also, yeah, but the driving instructor, teacher, she was really nice and calming, and she was always making fun of me and also the other students for paying too much attention to horses or something, because this is a small town and countryside, so there's a lot of horses. And then I realized this is a huge perspective change, that I've always been a passenger, so of course I've always paid all attention to horses that I see, but now I can't look at the horses. I have to pay attention to the car and the road and traffic, and yeah, it's so many things to pay attention to. So and also just the fact that I have to do something with my hands and legs. It's so many things at the same time.
Okay, well, maybe get a stick shift then if you need more things to do. I mean,
yeah, we are learning the
okay.
stick shift automatically. That's what we have to do.
I think I saw, I might be wrong, I think yesterday I saw that Finland's #1 export is electric cars, I think.
Electric car?
It's one of your Nordic countries up there. Maybe it's Norway who exports electric cars, I think it might be.
I think we export the chargers or the charging stations, and the electronics for that, but not the actual cars.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, we have some sort of technology related to electric cars.
Yeah.
I think it's the stations probably.
Yeah. Not to make light of your transition and detransition, but if you thought of it as an art project, right, or as a journey, like you were saying, you want to make a road trip journey, is there parallels to the process of how an artist approaches the medium in your relationship to your body or to gender? Was there a dialectic that's similar to an artist and the subject, or artist and the art object?
Well, I mean, in the obvious sense, my transition, it was the subject of a lot of different art projects, both mine and other artists. So there has been exhibitions and books and performances and all sorts of things related to my transitioning. And I also, because I didn't start arts because I was just making art. I got my start in arts because I had a trendy identity, I guess, and also because I was doing a lot of activism for a lot of different causes. And then my activism kind of turned into art projects, and I just got a lot of opportunities. And as a trans identified person, I got a lot of opportunities to participate in projects here and there and to perform and to play myself and to do all these things. So it was always a huge part of like the both of them, they were intertwined, my identity, my transitioning, and my art career. But also my art career was always revolving around me and my personal life, because I just figured at some point that there is this value of my tragic backstory and like me not fitting in. Like being an artist is the position in society where the people who don't fit in go. Like that's what you need to do then. So I kind of ended up in arts, and now the crisis in my art career has been that I don't want to do that anymore. And I was planning on making a project about detransitioning and detransitioners before I started my own detransition, because I was just interested in the topic and I saw that it's like a relevant topic in society and identity. So I approached different people who had detransitioned, and I was planning on this project. And then I realized like, holy shit, this isn't just me being interested in this, but this is something that I have to do also. So then I dropped the project idea, and then I stopped doing projects about myself, because I realized like, oh, I can just keep the circles going. Like I can forever be this like curiosity zoo animal that I can always just do all these things and document and all of these things. But like, I mean, I did start my YouTube channel, so I guess I did that in a sense. But I separated the art career from myself. But then I kind of didn't have any other ideas, and then I haven't, like, I still don't know what to do. Like, what else do I have to give to arts besides my story and so on? So that's why I'm about to graduate and I'm still trying to figure it out somehow. But yeah, it's like identifying as trans and doing art projects about it is a huge thing, and it's been a big thing in Finland. And there has been like one hugely celebrated artist who is biologically male, identifies as non-binary, who did an art project about living as a man. So that's a biological male performing manhood as an art project. And then people were like, this is brilliant. Never seen before. A male being a man. Wow. So it's like people can do a lot with the subject. And I was approached last spring to participate in yet another project about transitioning. And then I was like, oh no, I did transition. Full regrets. I want nothing to do with this. And then the person was like, oh, but you still have relevant experience and you still could participate and you could talk about this. And I was like, nope, I'm done. So it's also like easy opportunities, I would say.
So I'm trying to think about the asymmetries between detransition as a story and transition as a story, especially in the current climate where trans is really celebrated, and it's at once like chic or chic or in fashion and kind of the status quo, but it's the status quo because those who are promoting the status quo right now really value status quo breaking art. And detransition breaks that deconstruction that trans is. It deconstructs that deconstruction. So I don't see how it seems essentially conservative and therefore anti-art in a way, or anti-fashionable art in a way. Do you see, and I'm just riffing here, but do you see the elite class ever embracing detransitioners as this celebrated identity?
I would say that they kind of have to. They have no other option. And I do think that the trans activism recognizes that if they don't somehow include and embrace and accept detransitioners, then there will be other groups to claim detransitioners. Because I kind of feel this whole thing as this like game and like there's so many different agendas at play, and then there's so many vultures around detransitioners, which is very unfortunate because detransitioners are such a vulnerable and fragile people. So yeah, I think they have to recognize that, and also there is the attempt to include detransitioning within the narrative of gender identity ideology. So they frame it in that sense that, oh, this is part of your journey. This is like your individual journey that you are rediscovering your gender identity. It's an ongoing, never-ending, unfolding process of beautiful discoveries, and there's nothing tragic about this. This is great, and you shouldn't regret anything, and you just embrace this new body and identity or whatever, while detransitioners are in shambles and traumatized, and they are like, no, that's not my experience, but they are trying to reframe it in that sense so that they could keep their belief system and their framework intact, and also not to lose detransitioners to conservatives or to religious people or gender criticals or all of these other interest groups who are interested in them. But also I think another reason why they have no other option but to embrace detransitioners is because of all the easy opportunities for trans-identified people within media, arts, culture, social media, all of that. Then there is almost kind of like a class of people who build careers on their identities and their transitioning and so on. So where do they go? Like they have to have the career option to keep going within the arts. Like in my case, like because I built my art career around my identity, then like I would have to be given the option and possibility to keep going, like creating art out of my detransition, because that's all I know. That's what I'm trained to do. That's my profession. So like, what else am I going to do? What else am I good for? So I think in this like very cynical view, if we have a class of people or like a trained young artist or whatever, or self-made artists, then they don't have anything else going. And that's why I've been in a crisis about my art career, because I don't want to choose that path of like continuing that. And I don't want to continue the dialogue about identity and transitioning and detransitioning and the gender and all of that. I think it's it's been done. Like, I think the art world has to move on. Like, we need some other topics, like anything else. Like, please, let's just move on from that.
So, and you brought up earlier that your thesis is going to be about art, outsider art. So is that kitsch? Is that something that somebody would want like a 50-year-old woman would want in her bathroom, you know, that would just fit in? I mean, is that an interesting place to go? Just useful art that's just beauty and nice and not challenging, but...
Well, not exactly, because in Finland, outsider art is usually people who had their houses somewhere in the middle of nowhere, and then they created like statue parks in the forest. And there is this one really famous one. I think it's called Parikkalan Patsaspuisto. I don't remember the name of it, but it's like sometimes there is like international articles about it because it's so creepy. So it's these like very scary statues in the forest, and it just looks like a bunch of zombies. So yeah, so it's that type of things in Finland. So you can visit the houses because they had their own house somewhere, and then they lived and worked there, and they were outsider artists in like a literal sense of the word, that they just lived in their own world and they just did whatever they wanted, and then now they are recognized. So it's this like whole world of these like folk artists and outsider artists, and usually it's very non-commercial. It's nothing to be sold or bought or anything. But now it has more like this like institutional recognition. Like now they even award the outsider artist of the year, and they do like an exhibition of the outsider artist of the year, and then they take the art pieces that they used to be in the forest or someone's backyard, and then they bring it to the gallery, but it doesn't really work there because then you expect the what do you expect when you visit an art gallery or a museum, and then there is not of that like theoretical context for it, so it doesn't really work. But yeah, so that's why I needed the driving license, because I wanted to drive to these locations in the middle of nowhere and visit these places. And sometimes they even built their own houses, and they did crazy things just by themselves. So that's something that interests me. It's this like creating your own world and just doing what you want to do and just existing somewhere in the forest. Me just being done with society. But so that's why I kind of because yeah, like I said, I didn't enter the art world because I was just creating art. Like I don't have that type of background in arts and creating something. So I kind of researched the outsider artist and I was interested in it, but then I was kind of like, that I'm not that type of person either. Like I don't like the world of fine arts. I don't like the art theory. I don't like the identity stuff. I don't like any of that. But I also don't like this because I just can't like make things and somehow just create things. So
what do you mean you
I'm
can't just create? Why can't you just create things?
Well, I mean, I can, but it's like, I guess I don't get the enjoyment out of it. Like I can't just do things for myself, especially because I got used to the easy money and opportunities. Like I'm not like trying to somehow hide my motivations behind my art career. Like I'm very open and honest about it. Like I saw easy opportunities and I took them.
Could you explain? Like you said that you traveled to places and performed. What would you do? What was your identity?
Oh, I performed at a documentary theater piece about trans, masculine, and non-binary identities. So I literally performed, and I was just playing the role of me.
Okay, and what were you performing? What's trans masculinity, or how did you perform trans masculinity?
Well, it was like a 3-hour performance. I wasn't alone. It wasn't only about me. There was a bunch of people. And then there was the legal aspect of it and the laws about transitioning in Finland, because it's part of public healthcare, so it's regulated by law, but there's loopholes to it and so on. But it was about the legal stuff, and it was about personal stuff, and there was like personal statements from us. And then we also did this kind of like movement exploration things. So at that point I was alone on stage, going from like masculine poses to feminine poses, and like discovering body language and that type of thing. So it was like a contemporary documentary theater piece.
And how would you perform? What are some of the body stances to perform masculinity and femininity? And were they cultural specific, or were they taken from Hollywood movies or something? Like where were they derived from?
Well, it different. Like there was, I think there was 5 of us performing. Yeah. So I did like very subtle things, like how to roll up your sleeves. And what else did I do? Like sitting down in different positions and kind of like a little bit like being more like gentle or submissive or being more dominant or aggressive or like this type of thing. But I wanted to do like very subtle things and not like super obvious things. And there was like differences between the performers. Like some of them they did like peeing, sitting down and peeing if you have a penis and that type of things. So it was, I don't know, I did very subtle things. And I don't know.
And what
It
was
was,
the audience reaction? Were they just like enthralled?
I don't know. I guess they liked it. I mean, there was also music to it. And for me, it was more about the presence and just being in front of audience. Because I'm very like anxious and nervous and I have PTSD. So it was very challenging for me to perform in the first place. And I think for me, there was this like very emotional and touchy connection to the audience that they could relate to me being uncomfortable. Like, because for me, in my routine of body language things, it was more about the uncomfortableness of being in any sort of position, like going from masculine to feminine, feminine to masculine, and always being uncomfortable. So I guess there was this kind of like subtle thing. So I, I mean, I guess, I don't know. But yeah, that was in 2016 and 17, I think.
And where was
Yeah,
it
my art.
performed?
In Finland,
Okay.
Denmark, Estonia. Yeah, that's it. But multiple locations. In Denmark, we were in Copenhagen at this like performance arts festival. And there was also photography exhibitions and a book and everything. And the book won an award. And yeah, because it was the director of the project is a very famous artist in Finland. So that's why it was like such a like big deal.
And is this
But yeah,
person trans themselves, the lead?
no, but he had been working on a long-term project about gender and gender expression and gender roles like long before that, and that's why he was asked to direct this piece because he had already been working with those ideas. And the ironic thing is that he's famous in Finland because he killed a cat in a video art piece that he did long ago. And I didn't know that because I'm a dumbass and I don't have a background in arts. I did not know that. And at the time, I was the leader of Vegan Association of Finland. I was the vegan leader. And I did not know that I was working with a person who was famous for killing a cat. So,
Well,
yeah, and then the vegans were mad.
a cat is a carnivore. The vegans should celebrate the death of a carnivore, right? Wouldn't you think?
No, they don't want to kill anyone or anything. Yeah, when I had bug infestation in my apartment, I was trying to get rid of the bugs, and then one goddamn vegan told me that she was happy for the bugs that I didn't get to kill. Like I was telling them this story that I was chasing the bugs and was trying to kill the bugs in my apartment, and then I was just saying that the bugs are running away from me, and then she was like, "I'm so happy for the bugs that got away," and I was like, "I'm in war with the bugs, and you are taking the side of the bugs." So yeah, I'm no longer vegan or associated with vegans. But that was one of my phases. I was the vegan leader.
The vegan leader, huh? Which is
Yeah, I met the president and everything because
sorry.
of that.
Could you say that again?
I met the president and everything because of that when I was the vegan leader.
Is vegan activism and trans activism, is there correlation with the attitudes or the ideology much?
Yes, and also within the groups. Because in Finland, the identity things are very intertwined. Like, in order to be a good person, you have to be at least vegetarian or vegan. And in the description of the enemy in Finland, it's usually listed as one of the characteristics. It's like meat eating, cis hetero man, white, and also driving a car, and all of these things. So the environmentalist aspect of wokeism is very integrated to the whole thing in Finland. And I think in other countries also, but maybe not that much in US. I don't know.
It's all a piece. I mean, Wesley Yang calls it the successor ideology. We call it the wokeness, but it's all contained. It's just basically how the elite think. It's just their religion. So you have your environmentalism, your gender stuff, and the race stuff. And it's interesting that you brought up that these Finland activists called white people the enemy. I mean, you guys don't really... I mean, you're selected by nature to not have much pigment because of the lack of sun up there. So I mean, it's like really self-hating in a way.
Yeah, and we don't have that many people of color. We just don't. And it's funny because the capital is more diverse, and there's more people of color and ethnicities and religions and languages and everything. The capital of Finland, Helsinki, it's more like a European city in that sense, that it's more multicultural. But the rest of the Finland, it's pretty white. And but we have all the woke race stuff here also, and we have our own specific flavors to it as well. And yeah, it's this whole thing. And I think it's so funny that like somehow someone found that there is a trans woman of color in Finland, and they found this person and made a documentary film about this person. And like, I was so glad for the woke people that they found their supreme leader in that sense. But it was kind of funny because I was watching the documentary, and like, I have nothing against her. She seems nice, but it was funny because she always dreamed of being a model and a dancer, and she was pursuing a career in modeling and dancing and performing. So I think her kind of like vanity in that sense, and these kind of like fun aspirations in life, I think the woke people might have been a little bit disappointed in their newly found supreme leader. So I don't know, I just found it funny. But but yeah, we have like all of that stuff going on in here also.
Again, not to make light of detransition, but just thinking in terms of outsider art, thinking in terms of environmentalism, thinking in terms of the human nature to reject human nature, and how transition and detransition are it's kind of like this environmental struggle in a way where transition is, I just see this weird kind of ironic twist in environmentalism as trying to save the planet, but the cost of that can be pretty extreme. It seems like it's the thing that they're going to use to shut down society and to control society. The WEF is, they used COVID as a training ground to see how they can centralize their power. And they have documents that they're rolling out. The climate crisis is the next thing. So it could be the case that environmentalism and saving the planet is really kind of anti-human, in a way, anti-human liberty, anti-human nature, anti-human technology in this odd way. And there's just the inkling of a parallel with regard to...
Yeah, it is. And it's the kind of like, the anti-human, anti-life sentiment can be found in both, which is kind of strange because, the transitioning will sterilize you. Like, there's no way around that. And a lot of environmentalist people also have this sentiment that it's morally wrong to have kids. No one should have kids because of climate change and because the world is such awful place, and there is kind of this like anti-natalist anti-natalism, is it that? Yeah, that's what it's called. Yeah, that thing in deep ecology and all of this. And there is a lot of authoritarian attitudes, and yeah, it's a strange world.
And is there art to be made that challenges that artfully? Like not directly making statements or deconstructing it, but I just wonder if there's a way of challenging that. I know in terms of theory, like vitalism is coming to the fore as a reactionary modality or reactionary way of thinking, where we return to the vitalism of the body and we return to the vitalism of that was fostered by tradition. If you look at tradition not as the chains that shackle you, but as a garden that you tend, and then you're using your human nature to channel, Mother Earth in a direction. And that kind of seems to have a kernel or seed of vitality that is not subject to the pessimism and cynicism and authoritarianism that you see manifesting in the elite ideology.
Yeah, I was just thinking that, if you find a way, like an artistic, creative way to approach these topics, then yeah, maybe you could do it, but like, who's gonna exhibit that? Because they have their narratives. They know what they want. So unless you have already a platform or your own space, or you can frame it in a way that they tolerate, then I don't know. But I've seen some articles in Finland interviewing people who thought that they would never want to have kids because of climate change, and then they had kids, and then they realized that having kids also motivates them for the work to end climate change, because they now have kids and they have this interest in future. So it's a counter argument to the sentiment that you shouldn't have kids, or it's wrong to have kids, or nobody have kids. So they say that having kids is what motivates them more to help to save the planet more. So I do see that sometimes people do try to challenge the narratives, but I don't know. I found also that, because throughout my YouTube channel, I now have most of my videos members only, but so they're not like just public out there, but they are still there. All of my anti-woke, anti-vegan material is still there. But I was very paranoid at some point because of it, because I'm still studying arts. I'm still very much connected to the woke world, and I'm trying my best to find ways to cope with that and to just exist within that. But at some point, I realized that the people who are the most deeply involved in those ideologies, they don't even understand that someone can not think in that sense. So it doesn't even matter what I say. So I can say all of my opinions, and they will reframe that to fit their narrative. And they will assume I'm ironic or sarcastic or joking, I don't mean what I say, or I don't know, they will somehow make it work in that sense that they still believe that I absolutely agree with them. And that gave me kind of peace of mind in that sense that I'm safe from being cancelled by these people, because they still believe I'm on their side in that sense. But it also it is concerning if people are so deep into their frameworks and thinking that they don't believe that anyone could possibly disagree with them. So it's all concerning. But
There's this woman on Twitter, and I think her handle is Lordy. I mean, that's her name. I don't know what her handle is, but for the past year or so, she's been doing portraits of detransitioners. And a couple days ago, she put them all together in one kind of photo, and it kind of got traction in the gender critical side of Twitter, which, attracts the attention of people who hate the gender critical people. And there was this, what did you call that, Dr. Strange Man? There was a strange man that started haranguing this woman who just made this art about detransitioners, and he says, that's only 1% of the trans community. Why are you not celebrating the trans people? The trans people have it so much worse, and there's so much more material there. Why are you doing this project? It was so weird. It was so weird that he was trying to tell her what to do, trying to tell her that the trans people need art about them when the entire infrastructure is about them. Every corporate business in America has the trans logo, at least one day, if not a month a year. And then it was just interesting that they go after these anti-GC men, these men who are anti-GC. They show up and criticize these women for just, celebrating or talking about these issues and, pouring their love into making the art that they want to make. And so I replied to the guy, like, why aren't you telling me what to do? Like, here's 40 hours of me talking to detransitioners. Why don't you try to tell me what to do? No answer. Like, it just doesn't seem like he's interested in challenging me, telling me what to do, but he's really keen on telling the woman what to do.
But I'm pretty sure, I'm like 99% sure that at the previous video that we did, there is someone commenting that, okay, so now you interviewed this detransitioner, so now you have to do 100 interviews with trans people. So that's their logic. Nothing is ever enough. More trans stuff. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I've seen that logic also. And yeah, I think it's a funny problem for the trans activism that they recognize, well, they want to reject detransitioners because it's a threat to their own psyche and their own framework and their own ideology and their identity and all of that. So they want to reject detransitioners, but at the same time, they recognize that if they reject detransitioners, there will be other groups to grab them. So they kind of have to figure out what to do. So I don't know if that is their solution, that, okay, we allow someone to do something about detransitioning, but if they do something about detransitioning, they have to do 100 things about transitioning. So I don't know if that's some sort of like activist logic on how to make it right or something. I don't know.
And you really don't want to use detransition as an art or explore that artistically. What do you think about support doing art for the detransitioner community? Or does that just, the whole thing about doing art about identity is just, you're totally over it? You don't think that it can be done ethically or with integrity?
Well, the very original idea that I had about detransitioning that I was working on before I detransitioned, that was to gather a group of detransitioners and to work on like a mind-body connection, to reconnect with bodies and to do some sort of like maybe improvised or creative dance classes together, just in private, and then together to create maybe portraits or something in which the detransitioner gets to decide how they are portrayed. So I was planning on this like series of workshops that I could do with detransitioners, because I saw that the body-mind connection and the healing connection to yourself, that is something that is essential to this issue. So that's why I wanted to do that. And also I wanted to give them the agency to choose how they are going to be viewed and how they are going to be exhibited, because there is so much around detransitioners. Like there's so many different like groups who want to use detransitioners for their own narratives or agendas or something, and also to see detransitioners as victims and these kind of like, your life is now ruined forever. And I think that is a really dangerous narrative, because detransitioners are people who are dealing with the total collapse of their framework, of their understanding of themselves and their place in the world and their bodies, and they have to deal with the medical and legal consequences of what they've done to themselves. And most of them, they have severe mental health issues, maybe also like neurodiverse conditions, and so on and so on. So they're very fragile and vulnerable. And to take that type of group of people and to portray that in a way, because I understand the narrative, like, okay, now their life is ruined forever, because it warns the public about the dangers of transitioning. Like, I get it, but for the detransitioners to themselves, that is extremely dangerous narrative, because you take these individuals who are in a high risk of self-harming and like all sorts of risks because they are in such a fragile state, and then to make this like example out of them. So like, I think it's scary, but I think that's like, I never like questioned my motivations to do that, because I had like genuine intentions with my project, and that's why I wanted to do these workshops that are only for the group and in private, and it's not gonna like, there's going to be parts of the process that are like not public, and there's going to be some sort of end product that they get to decide on. But the reason why I didn't do anything about detransition with other detransitioners is because I'm scared of that vulnerability and fragility, and I'm not like, I have my history with codependency and so on and so on, and dealing with my own like history of having some sort of savior complex, because I tried for so long to save my foster siblings and like a lot of different people dealing with mental health issues and substance abuse and so on and so on. And lately I've been accepting the fact that I cannot save anyone. And now I'm trying to stay away from people who are very troubled, because I get too involved and I can't handle it. And also I have distanced myself from detransitioners in Finland and online also. Like, I'm not connected, I'm not part of any support groups or any sort of discourses or anything, because of the politics involved, because I don't want to jump to the gender critical side of things. I want to stay Switzerland. I want to be able to criticize both the gender identity side of things and the gender critical side of things, and the conservatives and the religious people and all of these different like interests. So I want to stay out of all of that.
So it sounds like you're in a position to do outside art.
Yeah, well, I did this one practice project about outsider art in the spirit of like the true outsider art. Like, I've done a lot of like crocheting, because that's something that I just do sometimes. And I took all of my crocheting and I did this like installation by this abandoned house in the forest, and there was like abandoned old car. So I took all of my crocheting work and I did this installation in the forest. I'm making a video about it. And I did it, and then I was like, yeah, but what's the point? Because I come from the art institutions and the art theory and all of that. Now I don't know how to function without it. And if I just do something just out of the joy of doing something, then I don't know what to do with it, because I'm like, did I get joy out of this? I don't know. Did anyone get anything out of this? I don't know. So Yeah.
And what's your relationship to creating YouTube videos at this time? What's that medium about for you?
I took a month or month and a half break during the spring when I started my internship and I was working a lot and I was thinking about it because I was simultaneously thinking about my relationship to the art world and all of that. And also the YouTube channel it's a thing kind of like, oh, I can't be a social media personality or YouTuber if I want to be an artist taken seriously in the realm of the fine arts. So kind of. So that's why I've always kind of kept it secret. And it used to be called the Honesty Project. Also partially because I was like, okay, so if somebody finds out, I can just say it's a project. I can frame this as a project. It's already called a project. So that's also my stupid sense of humor and my opportunistic nature. But I kind of came to the conclusion that I prefer being a content creator because that just means you just create content. What is content? Anything is content. It's free from the like fucking institutions in fine arts and the blah 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 of the theory of this and that. And I appreciate the honesty of content creation and social media in that sense that like everyone thinks that social media is this like dumpster fire, but then people are like, yeah, it's garbage, but we love it. So it's kind of like there's this freedom to criticize it. Because in the if you try to criticize the art world and how it functions within it, it's kind of this uphill battle and it's like and it's very theoretical and blah 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 blah. So that's why I like content creation more. So that's why I came back to YouTube and I was excited about it. But honestly, I don't know what to do with my YouTube channel because it's just me oversharing about something, me publicly processing things, and people come like leave me comments that it helps them somehow. And somebody said that sometimes when they have to process something that they are stressing about or something, then they start to talk to themselves in their head the way I talk in my videos. So somehow me publicly processing things, it helps other people also to break down their like own thinking patterns or something. I don't know. So I thought that was fun, kind of. Also kind of weird, but also kind of fun.
Is there
So
anything
yeah.
in the institution that you could bring to content creation, or does the institution basically only teach conformity to the institution, like with regard to theory and stuff like that?
Maybe like self-reflection. But I don't know if anyone wants to see that like YouTuber talking about YouTube on YouTube. But I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of online creators who do that. So I think maybe that, but I don't know. At the moment, I'm really struggling with the art side of things because I'm very disappointed in it because I came from activism and I thought that, oh, I can change the world through art. And then it's some sort of like art theory, name dropping this and that, or identity this and that. And then it's like you have to build up your CV and you have to apply for this and that. And it's so much paperwork. And I was like, this is a job.
Yeah, well, no matter what, it's going to be a job. There's going to be work no matter what.
Yeah, that seems to be the case.
But it's just interesting that this institution, this institutionalization, this progressive institution is about changing the world, but nobody ever actually changes the world. You're just a part of this process that promises change, but the change only happens in the direction of, you're not changing the way the world changes. You're just changing the world according to how the institution has already decided to change the world. You're just going to be on the right side of history, whatever that means. And you don't get to choose that. It seems like less liberating than well, I don't know. I don't know what the other thing would be, but just that progressive ideology, it promises that youthful energy and yokes it to another form of conformity.
Yeah. And then it's kind of like, well, I think the art world always does that. Like, like Dadaism and all of that. Like Dada was meant to be this rebellion against the institutions, and now it's celebrated part of art history, and it's seen as this one movement amongst all the other movements. So it failed at what it tried to do in that sense. So I think the art world functions the same way capitalism functions, that it just swallows everything as a part of it, and it accepts any sort of rebellion act against itself as a part of itself. So then it's just like, it's, I don't know, I see it as kind of pointless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you will be assimilated or forgotten or canceled or erased.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. I've been trying to figure out what is the next thing in art, and I hope it would be skill, like just pure hard work and skill and talent. I don't have any of that, but I mean, I
Why do you
hope
say
somebody
that?
else does. I mean, because like, I mean, I come from anarchism. I come from this like very leftist ideology, and I come from like there is this kind of like a. It's called the job refusing union in Finland. It's like people who just refuse jobs because it's like, you know, the climate change is happening and all we do is destroy the world, so we are going to refuse to work. I don't know, all jobs are bullshit anyway, so let's refuse to work, and so on and so on. Like, I have my background in this very anti-capitalist anarchist ideologies, but also because I don't know. Just I've come to realize lately that I'm not a very like hardworking person. And I at some point I realized like there is this, like, you know, the hustle culture, and everyone, no matter who you are, whether you are an anti-capitalist anarchist artist or whoever, everyone takes pride in being busy and doing a lot of things. And then I was like, yeah, but I don't want to be busy. I want to take a walk in the forest and do my own things and read books. And yeah, so so my problem is that everything is a job at the end of the day.
Yeah. Even content creation, but you get to trick yourself into just thinking that all you're doing is thinking out loud. But over time, you get better and better at thinking out loud, right?
Yeah, I think that's also like part of the reason why like I've had my YouTube channel for 2.5 years now, but I haven't made like a huge progress in the content quality, like the editing and the visuals and all of that. Like, I don't film B-roll footage of myself doing things, pretending I don't see the camera, because that feels so weird to me. I just can't do it. It's so ridiculous. And like, even like the silly things, like now that I have to be on this diet to lower my cholesterol, so I'm documenting that and I'm making a video about that. So I was filming my food, like what am I eating, my meals. And then I was like, I can't take this seriously. Like, I can't like place my food and take a nice video footage of it. Like, I started to zoom in and out and just like I can't take anything seriously enough to, like, I don't know. Because in YouTube also, of course, if you want to be successful and do it for a living, you have to conform to some sort of audience expectations or algorithm or something. I don't know. But yeah, it's something that has been on my mind lately, because I've done a lot of these things. Like when I was a teenager, I had a blog, and a lot of people who had blogs at the time, they are now like somewhat rich and famous in Finland. And I was like, but I had a blog. Like, why I didn't do that? And then I was like, yeah, but I was just documenting my drunken injuries, and I was just making fun of the like fashion blog thing. I was posting pictures of me being uh, like wearing flannel shirts every day, just I don't know, and just being at my worst. So it's like I've always done all of these like trendy things and participated in things, but then I kind of like self-sabotage myself because I can't be commercial. I don't know.
Well, you say self-sabotage. That's a strong term. It to me it seems like you're kind of always in rebellion. You're just a rebel, and ultimately the only thing that you can always rebel against is doing something or being something, right? Or working, I guess, is kind of the ultimate, or caring, I guess. If you're apathetic, that's just a total rebellion.
Yeah. I think there's a bunch of not bunch of, but few philosophers who came to that conclusion that they just ended up doing nothing at the end or something as a total repentance or a total rejection. But I don't know because I do a lot of things all the time. Like I'm working on things all the time, but I just don't make money with them. Or when I am successful at something like the identity arts and my art career and something, like it was going very well. Like I won some competitions and I did exhibitions and everything. But then I just kind of, I don't know, there's something that I need to stop. and then, and then I do stop. I somehow can't seize the moment. Like I've had some YouTube videos gain some attraction, and I had some videos that had like 50,000 views or something. And then I was like, yeah, I'm gonna make all of these members only, and nobody needs to see this anymore. And then I was like, oh, I'm not making money anymore. But yeah, that's something that I'm still trying to figure out. I don't know. I don't know. I'm reading the book, the You and Your Profile, by the
Hans Müller?
yes. I was
Moiler?
trying to
Moiler?
see.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think my profile right now that I'm painting of myself is not very good. I've been reading the book too much. But I think that's also something that I've always rebelled against is the self as a brand or this like image that you sell and the brand that you cultivate. And I was like, no. And
I think of it as, because I have to be aware of it, and I have one. Obviously, because I'm uploading content all the time and I'm very active on social media. And I have my picture there, and it's my name, it's my picture. It's me doing this. It's me sharing myself. But so I'm aware of the reality of the profile or the brand, but it's just kind of secondary. It's just something that the audience and I kind of just create as a shopping bag to carry the content. It's just the container of the content. It's just the packaging around the content. It's really secondary to the content. It's not really a thing itself. If it were a thing itself, I would probably be in your position where I'd have to rebel against it or like intentionally upset it. I don't think about it. I mean, I'm kind of aware of it, but I always kind of just forget about it because when I have taken it seriously, it becomes kind of a demon in a way. And not just like a devil, but just it has a life of its own, and it starts to tell me what to do, and it starts to control me in a way. So I just kind of let it do its thing and do my thing, and then it kind of does its thing, right? And we just kind of work together, right? And it's this virtual spirit that takes my shape and uses my voice and adopts every characteristic that I upload into this matrix thing. But I have kind of this relationship where I kind of just, I guess I respect it, but but I'm careful not to, believe in it or put too much stock in it.
Do you just let it be, or do you kind of, if you see that, like, kind of like if there's something you don't agree with it or you don't like about it, so do you then take action to change the course of your profile to keep it closer to you somehow?
I have seen that certain content that I creates a self-image of me that I just don't like, you know? So I think that in a way, why I've become like the conversation guy is because I can accept me when I'm calm. Like, I don't feel guilt or regret about content that's vibing calmly out there. Sometimes I get spicy on Twitter, but I usually only try to get spicy when I'm having fun. Whenever I'm angry at something, I try to encapsulate it with a bit of wit, so it's diffusible, or there's like another level of meaning that can kind of tug apart that spice and just kind of like diffuse it, because I just don't like, I don't like when I did a lot of critical content. I started this series called Oh, the Humanities, where I would just snarkily read academic papers that were really serious, you know, but they're so silly, you know, and I just snarkily read them. That interacting with that critical modality just started to sour me, and I started getting more and more anxious and losing a lot of sleep and waking up in the middle of the night and caring what people were thinking about me. So I kind of backed away from that, because I do have a relationship to how I'm perceived. I do feel when people are angry at me online. I can feel it when I get in trouble with the turfs, you know, when I do a bad joke or something like that, and like it just follows me around. I'm really anxious. So yeah, so there's that. So I'm just really aware that it's not distant from me, but at the same time, it's really not really me, right?
Yeah.
And also
Yeah.
in the interviews and being able to be an interviewer, then I allow my power, or my internet power, to work in service of something other than just me and my ego. I use my ego that I've constructed, my profile, to serve other people, and to give them a place to be honest and to extend their profile in the direction of authenticity. That, I don't like that word, but I hope you know I mean it in the positive sense. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
What were you going to think?
Yeah, I was thinking your puns that you have been in trouble with, like when you said that you try to use your wit to have the option to diffuse the situation and so on. Yeah, I think like there's something like inherent to me that I don't want to be liked. Or like, I don't know, I feel like, especially with the social media stuff, and because I used to have the blog, and then I saw like the other bloggers who started just as random people as I did, and then I saw them to become like actual celebrities and so on. And then I was also selling clothing, and then this one girl was buying like huge piles of clothing from me, and then she was like reselling it on Depop for more money, and then she was telling me to go on Depop and to like sell clothing for more money and to do all that. And then I read an interview of her that she is the biggest Depop seller in Finland, and so on and so on. So a lot of things that I do, I see other people getting successful with, and then I kind of like I don't know, I can't like do that. Like I feel like other people have some sort of instinct to, you know, seize the moment and go for it and be successful, and then I have the opposite instinct of being like, no, please, everyone hates me, I suck. And then I don't like it. It's kind of weird, like thing that I have observed myself doing. But it's, I don't know.
It's good insofar as it keeps you humble. But at the same time, it might be the case that you're still, I'm really sorry to speak this way. It might be the case that you're still struggling with a feeling of being unworthy of love, right?
Yeah.
And success is just love filtered through money, right?
Yeah. And also I think there is some sort of, I feel like a sense of responsibility if I like have an audience or if people like me or something. And then like I feel that inevitable, it's like I'm going to let them down. So it's better that they just hate me from the get-go. And then it's like a weird thing. But it's also kind of like the position that I've somehow identified with, that I want to be able to criticize everything and everyone and to stay out of any sort of group or something.
Do you at all want to change in that way? Do you at all want to just let go and be successful?
Yes, I do want to see myself being successful. I do love money. It's so weird. Like the amount of self-sabotage I do, but I do love money at the same time. That's also one thing that has separated me from a lot of other people working in arts, because I've always wanted to make money, and then other people say that they don't care about it, and I'm like, just be honest. But yeah, I don't know. But it's a weird dynamic to exist in. And also, while I've been reading the book, I've been thinking about my profile, because of course, like intentionally or unintentionally, I will create a profile. And within arts, because I've done so many like deeply personal projects and like always been oversharing, and I've read like police investigation papers on stage when I got beaten up, and then I made this spoken word thing about like I would have beaten myself up also because I understand the person who beat me up, and like very brutal way of just being deeply personal very publicly. Where was I going with this? Why was I talking about this?
As you're reading the profile book, it's inevitable.
Yes. So I think I had this profile as an artist and as a person, and also kind of also on my YouTube channel, that I am this very open person. But I think that also adds up to me wanting to scare people away or somehow, because I don't want people to expect that vulnerability and intimacy from me, and then I want to scare them away or something. I don't know. But yeah, also I just, yeah, I guess I should think about my profile. But it's like I don't want to do it. And also I think, no, I don't know. But I wanted to ask you a question. Because I saw your video. I don't remember what it was titled. I don't remember anything else in the video, except it was you saying that you went to church. And you were in the church and you were moved by it. So I wanted to ask about your relationship to religion and the sacred or holy or something. I don't know.
Well, where do you want to narrow it down? It's a huge topic.
Well, did you become Catholic? I don't remember when did you post the video.
That wasn't that long ago.
And also, I was kind of thinking that, because I kind of see similarities in my approach to church at the moment, because I guess I'm going through something similar in a way. But also I think, like, do you think there is like this missing link or connection between the sacred and the holy and arts and creation and creativity? Or do you, like, I don't know.
Well, like we were saying, art is nothing in itself. The whole art for art's sake it's not true. It doesn't really actually work out as being true. It's just a cover for art serving either the aristocracy, an ideology, or God, or the self, right? The self is there too. Art that serves the self doesn't have a long shelf life unless the self's pretty amazing, right? So art that serves the self, I don't think is really that important. The self is, like we were saying with the profile, just a vehicle for content. The self, art that serves the self could be good if the self is serving something other than the self, right? Other than its own power or prowess, but explaining something like you were doing with your YouTube channel, where it is about you. It's art that's serving you. The content is serving you, but you're bringing some content through you to other people, and other people are getting value out of that. So yourself is being used as a vehicle for art. Art that serves the aristocracy, like we've seen, the aristocracy is aristocracy. Aristocracy is taken over by what we call woke ideology, right? And you're tired of that. I'm tired of that. I don't think it's really interesting, and I think ultimately it's pretty damn destructive. So I don't think that the aristocracy is serving something good. If the aristocracy was serving something good, it would lead to better art, I think. And so the art that is being adulated by the elite, much better word to say than the aristocracy, the art is showing the essence or the soul of the elite. The elite is worshiping art that in the act of worship, it creates their soul and it also manifests their soul. So their soul is really up in arms about identity and the environment and all these causes. That's the soul of it. And it's kind of a Marxist-ish soul. If you look at God or the sacred, like what is the sacred? Well, the sacred would be in part, I think the sacred is two things. One, it's the inner self or the highest self and the self's communion with reality or being. And so art that serves the self that's in search of being could have a real content, and that content could be very dark. It could be content that's simply somebody that's going through some sort of purification, and so it's really dirty because they're vomiting out some dirt, or they're going through some trauma, right? And they're trying to get to the ground of being. And the ground of being is not chaos. I don't think the ground of being is chaos. I think that the ground of chaos, or the ground of being, is peace and can contain chaos. And the ground of being, when it confronts chaos, it causes chaos to relax and to become ordered. And I think that's why we live in an ordered universe and not a chaotic universe, because the order is organizing chaos into stable forms and into selves. And then it also, because it's a living world, chaos is always there and coming in, and there's a dialogue between chaos and order. So art that serves the self in search of being, which is just another word for God, or God is just another word for being, I think has real content. And whether or not that content is good for other people is totally open. It could be really crappy content, but it's really authentic for that person's journey. And I think it has an inherent value in and of itself. The other aspect of the sacred would be the sacred traditions, which would be the accumulation of generation after generation pursuing, maintaining, and cultivating a relationship with the ground of being, or God. And so when I talked about that experience that I had this spring, where I went into this Catholic church that wasn't anything special, especially by European standards, but there was just this sense of connection. Like, this place was carved out of the world specifically for individuals to commune together with the ground of being. And because that place was set aside for that, it allowed me to open up to some things that I needed to go through in order to renew my connection with God. or the ground of being, whatever you want to call it. And so art that serves that would probably have some sort of intention to be an object that allows for a portal for individuals to remember and to commune with being, right? So art that it would be a painting or a shawl or something like that, or like rosary, like a bead, that's sacred. And it has a meaning. So it's not like art for art's sake, but it's not a deconstructive meaning. It's a sacred meaning. And that sacred meaning means that this is a tool. It's an icon. It's an idol. It's a painting or a picture or a parable or a song or a story or something like that, or even just an illustrated manuscript, that this is a place or this is an object to remind you and then to help you as the consumer of the art to participate something other than just witnessing an aesthetic experience or seeing something beautiful. It's like, no, this is directing your attention very intentionally towards this orientation with the ground of being. That's my answer.
Yep. That's very similar to what I ended up with. Is it in English also the word sublime?
That's a word.
I think that's, it describes that, like experience and connection to something, or they're trying to have the connection to something larger or higher than yourself. Do you know the documentary by Sir Roger Scruton about art and meaning of art?
What's it called? Just the art and meaning of art? Or
I don't remember. Oh, it's beauty something. Why beauty matters. It's called Why Beauty Matters. There was a point at my YouTube channel when I was talking about it in like every video, because my memory is so bad, I don't remember anything. And then I was just making video after video after video about talking about it and the art world and how the art world is failing because it's no longer like according to this and this like idea of like why beauty matters and the connection between the sacred and the art and all that. So yeah, that was also the conclusion that I ended up with. But then I was trying to figure out like, oh, if I'm the artist, like how am I going to do that? And then I hit a wall again with that. But then I was like, okay, so maybe I can provide the space for it instead of being the artist, because I don't think I have the skills.
No, I disagree with you. I think that if you wanted to do that, all you have to do, well, the chief move, or the first move and the constant move to make, is to, when you're creating art, be in a quiet space. Just remember, this is me. I'm in communication and communion with reality, right? Whenever I am doing my work, it is a prayer, right? It's me sending a message and listening for guidance, and just doing that allows your consciousness to take over rather than your ego or your mind or your thoughts or all your cleverness. Like that, just it becomes a part, and then whatever happens, happens. But you are using it as a way to grow as an individual, to heal, all that other stuff. I think healing isn't the end point. It's necessary because we're all broken. To heal is very necessary, but it's not the end point. We don't want to just heal and then die. You know, like, oh, I heal and die. Like, no, I want to heal so I can do something good. And so that'll all be a part of the process. So it's more just about your orientation to what you're doing, and just make it whatever, if it's sublime, whatever word or concept it is that I think it's peace or relaxing and kind of just surrendering and letting it, and just being aware, just being aware, and then just doing the thing, and then just doing the thing.
Yeah, that it's very a different approach to making and creating something than what my original approach was, to exploit my identity to get easy money. So
And change the
yeah,
world. Yeah.
yeah. Also that, yeah. If I can change the world and make money, then. But yeah, yeah. I think that's a good approach to making anything really, or living. And yeah, it's yeah. I kind of had like a similar experience when it comes to churches and that type of environment, because I've always liked churches as buildings, and like all the like art, and especially I like Catholic churches and Orthodox churches because they have more bling. Because the Protestant churches, they don't have the bling, and I love me some bling, but but here in this small town where I moved, there is this very small and cozy church, and at the altar there's a big painting, but it's not Jesus at the cross, but instead it's uh, a mom and a child, and it was like painted like after, like modeled by some local woman here, and it was like a commission by an artist, and it's a like a very finished looking painting, and there's the woman with the baby and nursing the baby, and there is the light like coming from above. And I think the light is like what I always love about this kind of like in religious texts and art and all of it, kind of like the divine light that like shines through, and all the text about that, it's like a metaphor that like repeats itself. But I think that is also something kind of like to be guided by that. And I feel like there is some sort of like visual representation to connect to that like process of making something as you described, to be kind of like guided by that light. But it's been funny that I've been to the church now here, I think more times than like in my life combined ever. But it's like such like a small and cozy church, and I think it's like shaped like a, what is this called, like a cross, like this, like equal cross instead of like an actual cross. And I think the equal shape of the church also makes it cozy and more equal somehow. I don't know, because I have my issues with authorities and like hierarchies and so on.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's like I also thought it's like this space where you get to go and be like, okay, I'm physically in this space, so I'm also mentally and psychologically in this space of like approaching something that is not always present in everyday life. So I think that's like, it's a, I don't know, I kind of have this like new approach to religion where it's like I don't have to focus on the literal text or the stories as a literal things. And I don't know, because I think the rituals and practices and the space and the environment is so much more important than like the stories.
I had a thought about the profile. Jonathan Peugeot, icon carver, Greek Orthodox guy, he's a YouTuber, does these videos that describe symbolism and from a Christian point of view. And very brilliant man, but he talks a lot about worship, and his meaning of the word is about how you pay attention and what you pay attention to. That is the reality. The reality is in your paying attention to things. The profile is other people paying attention to things, or other people paying attention to you, and you paying attention to you and you producing you in front of other people, it's inherently a virtue signal, but it can also be a ground of imprinting a certain type of attention. And the beauty of the Catholic Church, and the problem with the Catholic Church theologically, is that from a Protestant point of view, it's a bunch of idols, right? It's a bunch of, like, you're worshiping Jesus on the cross, you're worshiping Mary, and you are and you aren't. It's a different form of training your attention. You don't worship that gold scepter or whatever it is. You don't worship the song. You use these things to remind yourself of, or to train your attention to see that, like, just like you were saying, to see that I am, like, when I'm doing my work, when I'm making my video, when I'm speaking, if I just allow for a space where I'm being witnessed, like, the light is like God's eye, right? But God's eye isn't something that takes in. God's eye is something that sheds light, right? It's like this inside out eye, it's like those laser eyes. And so if you just remind yourself, and going to that church is just remind yourself that this is a place where I am in front of God, or I'm being witnessed and I'm witnessing God, or I'm worshiping and I'm being witnessed in my worship. And worship isn't, you have to think of it as just paying attention to things. And then you can start to bring that into everything that you do. I mean, ideally, that's what becoming religious is that you're always, everything is a sacred act. Every single thing becomes a prayer, even every breath. If you go as far as possible, like every time I breathe in and breathe out is a moment of me participating in being, everything, right? And so the church, going to church is a practice that does it very with your whole body, and it just divorces you from the world, like, just like you were saying. But you have to bring it out and to put it into all the different things. And then you just kind of start to see life as just this constant, you're already in heaven, right? You're already just like, you're bringing heaven into it, and heaven just being, and not being in forgetfulness or in all these different, like, anger and lust and laziness, all these different things that are called sin, isn't like evil. It's just states or activities or attitudes that are outside of the ground of being. It's outside of the light, even though it is, because the light's everywhere, but it's you turning away from the light. And so it's kind of like a practice. To become religious is just a practice. And then you get to fail all the time and forget. God damn it.
But I think that corresponds to, like, meditation, and how some people approach the meditation. That is kind of like you meditate on things, and it's a way of, like, living and, well, of course, breathing, but, like, it's the mindfulness and meditation and the being present and allowing things to be present with you in your presence and so on. So I think that it's a more like a universal approach to religion, rather than, like, because kind of like my approach to religions is that it doesn't really matter, like, which specific religion you choose, because the important stuff is always there, because what you need is the experience and connection with something sacred, something holy, and rituals and practices and traditions, and the, like, feeling that you are not alone in some sort of void, but you are part of, like, something, like, existence that is, like, continuing. So I think, like, because I used to in my rebelling against everything, I used to have a very long phase that was also part of my art career, but mainly in my poetry, that I did all of this, like raging against the God type of things. And I had this, like, existential rage for the longest time, because I was so bitter about everything. But I think that's something that's changing. And like I'm able to let go of that existential rage, even though sometimes it kind of makes a comeback. But like in like most cases, I'm kind of approaching that, like, because like, yeah, we talked about the anti-natalism, and I've been thinking about anti-natalism because I sterilized myself, and that is like act against life to do that. And I was kind of thinking like, am I an anti-natalist for sterilizing myself? And then because I read at the archives of the social services that my uh, mom was basically told to sterilize herself, and she refused, and then she switched uh, to go to another healthcare facility or hospital or something because of that, because she was insulted by that. And now recently I visited my hometown and I received a bunch of papers about my dad from my grandma. And in those papers, there was medical files for my dad, uh, like applying for admission or like permission to sterilize himself as a 22-year-old. Like he wanted to sterilize himself and he never wanted to have a family. But the doctor's statement was that, oh, but he's a healthy young man. No need to sterilize him. Like he was denied the sterilization that he wanted. And then I was like, oh, this is so funny. Do I have like anti-natalism in my family? And then I was like, that's so funny. But then I was kind of thinking like this, like anti-natalism thing and being against life and my like rejection of everything and rebellion against everything and my existential rage, and because I saw the anti-natalism and against humans attitudes in environmentalism and veganism, because there's so many people who just casually hate humanity and the sentiment that humans are the cancer of the earth and these type of belief systems, and people just hate people. And then the trans stuff and how your identity is now more important than your fertility. And also within the trans things is that like parents who kind of push the trans narrative to their kids, and if they push their kids to in an early transition, then they will essentially sterilize their kids. So I think I have a lot of like background in this like anti-life. And I've been trying to kind of like crawl my way out of that towards the light, kind of in a sense. And like I was thinking about the antinatalism, and I have watched some like YouTube videos about it, and there is like antinatalists like talking about their views, and I think it's an interesting thing because it's so repressed. Like it's like so anti-life at its core, and because they think that life is so miserable that it's better not to be born. And then I was thinking, like, do I think that? And then I realized, like, I have finally reached the point where I don't think that. And I think that life is this, like, absurd adventure. And it's like, it's so ridiculous, like, life entirely. It's so ridiculous and dramatic and fun and sad and all of these things that I wouldn't not do it. Like I don't I don't agree with the antinatalists and their views that life is so miserable and there's always more suffering, because it's like, yeah, but the suffering is also kind of fun in a way. and and I was thinking that, yeah, this is like a huge shift in my thinking, that I'm out of the anti-life narratives and movements and ideologies and all of that. And I have reached a point where I do think that even despite all the suffering, life is still a fun adventure. And it's still worth it. So, yeah, I think that this like new approach to religion and the sacred is also part of that. letting go of the rejection and rebellion, even though I do be rebelling against being successful, but that's a problem. But
Oh, you can be changed in an instant. Human beings can be shown things when spiritual master, which is the wrong term for the guy, Pak Sumu Hadiwajoyo, Indonesian fellow who founded my spiritual group. He said that human beings can hate God all they want, and it doesn't really matter hating God, that existential raise. It doesn't really matter because God can take care of that in a moment. But what you really have to be careful of is hating other human beings and hating yourself. Because when you do that, then that separates you from God. That forms a dark cloud around you that can't even be penetrated by God. And it is, I remember when I was 20, 21, I was so angry. I just didn't want to be alive. I mean, I didn't want to die, but I just didn't want to be born. I didn't like existence. It just seems so stupid and difficult and not worth it. And I was just really depressed and really angry, and got in a lot of trouble because of that. Did a lot of rebellion because of that. And but I could only go so far. There was only so far that I could go before I could see that, you know, there's two directions that I can go. I can surrender myself to the holy or being and allow myself to participate in that and make that my meaning, but I would have to give up my will. Or I could go just totally in my will and make all of my life all about me and magnifying my strength and magnifying my power, and ultimately really, really suffering because I'm not a clean person. I'm not essentially good. If I would just magnify my will, all I would be doing is amplifying my pleasure and amplifying my pain, but not really finding peace. And probably living a really short life, because I could only do that for so long. I only have so much energy. And, so I made the wager, and I'm like, well, okay, God, tell me, show me. You have to show me, because I'm not going to play the game anymore. Stupid me. I was like 20. I didn't know anything, 22 or whatever. And then I was given the gift of just being able to feel the presence and feel that. And I don't mean to rag on meditation or the Buddhistic religions or the East, but I need, when I relax.
Oh, I need to
plug in your phone. I was almost done. Okay.
Just wait a second.
All right. I don't know if I should be talking about this.
Where am I? Okay, I'm back.
Oh, there you are.
What can you see in the background?
It's fine.
What is this?
Do you have a chair?
No, I'm standing the whole time anyway.
Well, we should probably wrap up anyways.
Yes. But you were saying about that, because I was thinking that, yes, because you had the change of heart kind of in your 20s. But like, how did that happen? Like the conclusion that you need to change things.
Well, I mean, it didn't conclude. I was given the opportunity to feel directly without the mediation of belief, because I had a problem with belief. I still have a problem with belief, but I'm not angry about it. I just have a kind of a problem with it. But I just was given proof that there is a life inside of life. Life isn't just this machine, this mechanism, this random order of things that just happens to function. And it's just noisy, and it's just people like competing and struggling and then building things. There's actually a content inside of it. There's actually this vibration. I guess that's what I was trying to say, is that when I worship, I don't worship to be absent or to merge with just pure witnessing or pure awareness. I worship in order to return to that. It's like almost like this electric vibration that's running through everything. That's just always there. And that's what I call the ground of being, or maybe the Holy Spirit. There's other words, the power of God or something like that. So I was just in my 20s when I found that if I relaxed and aimed in a particular direction, I could receive and have a dialogue with that. And then once that happened, then my entire life had to fall apart, completely fall apart. And then I had to rebuild, and it fell apart over and over again. But I entered into that relationship, and then I had to be broken down and remade, and broken down and remade, and broken down and remade. But with the added, bonus of being able to just be in love, be inside of love, be in love when I remember, and when I...
Yeah, so it's kind of like very different than meditation, because in meditation you kind of stop thinking and you kind of empty yourself, but it's kind of like opposite of that, because you are reconnecting to something and you get something from it. So it's not the absence of something.
No, everything comes up. It's full of movement. It's full. It's like this fountain.
Yeah.
And then I participate, and I move, and I sing, and I dance, and it's kind of ecstatic, like quality rather than stillness.
Yeah.
But it starts with stillness. It starts with quiet.
Yeah. So there is like similarities, but also opposites. But it's kind of like a non-dualistic thing where it's, I don't know. But I like that description of that experience. I once almost joined a cult kind of accidentally, and I think they were experiencing something like that. And then I had this like jealousy that I've kind of had throughout my life, like to religious people or spiritual people who have that kind of, I think there is like a combination of like psychological and emotional safety and joy in that experience and connection and all that. And then I was in one of their meetings and they were chanting the Hare Krishna things and different things and chanting, and they were like playing different instruments, and they gave me some instrument also. And I was like looking at them, and they were so like blissfully just chanting and playing music and all of that. And I was just watching them. I was like, I wish I could enter that, but I feel like there's something that I can't. But it's like, I think it's also something like I find it really difficult to give in to that sort of thing. But I think that's like that type of experience, it sounds nice in that sense that if you have like a framework collapse of your understanding of yourself and the world and all of that, but you gain something to fill that void. Because I feel like in my life, whenever I've had these like framework collapses, I didn't like get much in return, but then I made my peace with the void. And I guess that's something that like interests me in philosophy, because I can just look at different frameworks and different ways of thinkings and modes of thinkings and approaching things, and I can kind of like just observe all of it and stay out of it, and to have that type of like maybe like distance to it.
Just like you were saying with ideologies and political things, you kind of want to not be a part of a group or a collective like conscience.
Earlier this year, I kind of accidentally stumbled upon this group of gender critical lesbians in Finland. And I was like, oh, I didn't know this is a thing. And then I was kind of thinking like, but why would I identify as gender critical lesbian? Like, why would I, like, first of all, or I don't know, my sexual orientation isn't part of my identity anyway. But also, why would I identify in such a like intimate part of my life, like in opposition of something? Like, I don't want to be in reaction to something else or opposing something. And I don't want to live in a reaction in that sense. And I was like, no, but I don't want to be part of this group that is like in this like opposition to this other group or something. And I don't know. But it's weird that like I've had this shift. It's kind of like a slow ongoing process where I'm like, I want to give in and I want to give up the rebellion and the rejecting everything and all of that. But at the same time, it's so difficult. But like I had that change of heart, like being like very chaotic and drinking heavily and doing whatever and like living that up of chaotic life and not wanting to live, and for the longest time just thinking like, oh, do I choose to live and do I choose this life and do I accept it? Do I accept life for what it is or do I reject it and so on and so on? But for me, like the resolution that I came to is that life is a life sentence that you just have to do your time and there's no way around it. And then I was like, yeah, this is kind of like, it's not the most like uplifting approach to life, but that's like how I saw it. And I was like, if I stop thinking about like whether I choose it or not, and I just accept that it is what it is, I've been sentenced to life in life and I have to do my time. And also because I didn't have the option of offing myself because my parents did that and I had to rebel against them. So in that sense, I was forced to choose life because I had to rebel. And so there's like so much rebellion going on and rejecting everything. So that I kind of had to like prioritize my rebellions. And then I prioritized rebelling against my parents and that like whatever they have going on, that I will not be part of that. And therefore I have to choose life. And therefore I have to accept the life sentence that is life. And then I was like, okay, so this is not the most fun, uplifting approach, but it's a start.
Yeah.
Like that's like how I got my start in like accepting the absurd adventure that life is. And then I also like recently, now that I've been accepting the simultaneous end and never ending process of detransitioning, like it's ending but it's never ending at the same time. And I was accepting that. And what I was going to say about this, oh my god, I had something to say about it and it was important, but I forgot.
This is a start to accept.
Yes.
So as
yes, now I know. Because like detransitioning, it was the collapse of the framework, especially because I was so deeply involved in all of the woke ideologies from veganism, environmentalism, identity politics, and the queer stuff and gender stuff and transitioning, all of that. That was my entire world. So I went through these like framework collapses, like with veganism, and like one by one, each of my frameworks of understanding the world and my place and purpose collapse after collapse after collapse. And I kind of like had this feeling that I want to hold on to the resentment and bitterness of transitioning and detransitioning because I felt like I've been tricked into this. Like my vulnerability as a person has been exploited and I want my revenge. So I'm holding on to this. But then I kind of started to view these like framework collapses as a gift, because it forced me to have this viewpoint in life that, oh, these are these ideologies and politics and groups and religions and this and this and that. And then I was able to gain the interest in philosophy, and also to understand that, like, I don't have to go from one ideology to the next. Like, I can try to observe it all, but to stay out of it. And I don't think that would have happened without the framework collapse. Because it's like, if you live your entire life in a cult, then do you even know you are in a cult? But then if you leave the cult, then you see the cult. And that can give you a new perspective on everything. And that can be a huge thing, both in good and bad.
I think if you look at what a human being is, we wear clothes and we live in houses. It's not natural for us to be naked and alone in the cold. I mean, we can pull it off, but eventually you're going to find a home, right? That's what I'm saying. Even if it's just a trailer, but eventually something's going to call you. And so what I would say is that I really jive with what you're doing and the position that you're in where you observe things. I do that too. I'm kind of an in-betweener. I walk between the rows, you know, in a way. But when I enter into a place that I belong in, I know that I can feel that belonging's here for some reason. And that's why I brought up that experience that I had with the Catholic Church. It's like there's some sort of home here, and I don't know what it is, but I'm at a place in my life where I'm not going to cede or give over my sovereignty. I'm not going to believe things just to belong. I don't need belonging in a communal sense. Actually, I have to figure out how to do that, but I want to be a part of something, and I need to be a part of something somehow, in some way. And the only way that I can figure out what that is to listen to my heart, like listen to my inner self when it like says, yeah, you know, yeah, you know, yeah. So I too am outside of belief, but I still need to be inside a home. I still need to wear clothes. I still need to present myself as a part of a humanity and a culture at some point, and I'm still negotiating that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm also in that process. Like, yeah, I do live in a home and wear clothes, and now I'm actually like painting my apartment and doing all these things, and like fighting my internal battle of like, can I really do whatever I want with my space, or do I have to make it, I don't know, something that other people can understand or something? Like, it's this like thing. But also, I don't know, that the idea that being alone and naked in forest, like, I think there has been multiple art projects in Finland, people doing that. Because Finland, we have so much forest, and we have this like connection to the forest and the nature. And I guess it's because Christianity arrived late to Finland, and Finnish people fought against Christianity. And then, I don't know, I guess we had our pagan forest nature, like a pantheistic view of the sacred for so long that it still kind of like lingers on, and I don't know. But it's this thing, I don't know. A lot of people refer to the forest as their church in Finland. So it is this thing. And I guess Estonians have the same thing. But yeah, so I'm also like, I wouldn't go that far than to, you know, to try to exit the society somehow. But like, yeah, just like finding the way to exist within society, and to observe and not to get involved, but to have community. And like, it's so much like navigating different forces. I don't know. But how many cats do you have? You have cats, right?
Yeah. Do you have cats?
No, my apartment is too small and I'm allergic. I was
Oh,
gonna get a cat if I got an actual house, but I just have an apartment.
okay. Yeah. Yeah, if you're allergic, they're difficult. But we had two, and one just walked away a couple weeks ago. She just disappeared. So we have the cat, the boy cat, the younger cat, is just not doing too good. So I have to find him a kitten because he's very social. He doesn't like other people, but he really likes his family, and he's really missing Bijou. So yeah, a little bit of tragedy on the home front there. So
Oh no.
I need to get another kitten. So I'm waiting for the right kitten to pop up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it's sad.
No.
It's sad. He's doing a lot of
Yeah.
processing actually, and whenever I think of how sad he is, then I get really, really sad. But I kind of accept it. Bijou was great, but she just disappeared. I don't know what happened. It was the middle of the day too. She just walked off.
Oh no.
Yeah.
How long ago was that?
I guess 3 weeks. No,
Yeah.
it's gone. Yeah, she's gone. She's gone. We looked around and we kind of live out in the woods too, so it's probably likely that either a human being stole her, best possible option. She got run over, but I would have seen that because I travel the roads, or an animal ate her for a mid-afternoon snack, which is probably what happened.
Do you have like beast, like wild animals there?
I guess the only predator animals we have are the coyotes
I have
and the
predator.
eagles. But I don't think the eagle's not, she was a little too big for an eagle. So,
Yeah.
but technically an eagle could probably do it, but it would probably have been a land animal. So, yeah. Local canines.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Veera, what's next on your plate? Do you have any plans for YouTube, for content? Do you have a schedule going up, or it is what it is? Do you still publish things for the public?
Yes, I do. My new content is public, and all older videos are members only for the cheap price of not $1.99.
A
I
month.
wanted to keep, yeah, I wanted to keep the price low, but I wanted to make it members only. So it's like, if you really want to see it, you can pay $1.99. But so it's this like barrier. So I wanted to do that. I've been meaning to set up a Patreon, but I don't know what would I offer people in exchange. Do you have a Patreon?
Yeah, but it's just there. It's just there. I have a PayPal and a Patreon, and I just plug it, and people donate when they want to donate.
Oh, is that an option? Like I was like stressing out that I have to do like Patreon exclusive entertainment, and I would be the dancing monkey, like trying to please people feeding me. I don't know.
Yeah, you can
I
do
guess
that
that's
if you want, but you don't have to. And people will just accept you as you are, or just not find it worthwhile and say, well, I'm paying for her content and her content is free, but I still want to pay her to do it. So I'll use Patreon or PayPal or whatever. Subscribestar is pretty solid. They've been around for 4 years, I think, 3 or 4 years now. They're pretty solid.
Subscribestar?
Yeah, they're a Patreon kind of knockoff or alternative Patreon that isn't as ideologically captured as Patreon.
Oh, is Patreon like canceling people?
Well, they canceled Carl Benjamin a while back because at one point he called white nationalists the N-word, and like 4 years prior, and they found that, and then they canceled him for being racist, and they kicked him off the platform. It was really ridiculous. Yeah.
Well, that's very strange in very like a lot of different levels.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's ancient
Yeah.
internet history, though.
Okay. Well, I have to think about my options. Yeah, but on my channel, I'm going to upload less content about me overthinking and more content about me doing things.
Mm.
At least for some videos now, I guess.
Hmm.
But
Well,
I'm trying to move onto a direction away from the overthinking. I don't know.
well, please keep doing it and believe in yourself and allow yourself to have some success. A humble request from a fan.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess. Maybe it's like the last frontier of my rebellion. I don't
Not the
know.
last, the next. You're always going to be who
Yeah.
you are, so.
Yeah, I think so. I'm gonna send you. I think I filmed the video about my local church. I like it so much. You can insert it when I'm explaining
Okay. Yeah, please do. Please do. I'll put that in.
it.
I'd love to see that. All right, Vera, I got
Yeah.
a motor to work. So
Yeah.
great catching up, and hopefully we get to talk again soon.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know what to say. Okay.
Go get him, boy.
Yeah.